Our guest on This is America and the World is Ambassador Claudia Fritsche. Ambassador Fritsche represents the Principality of Liechtenstein to the United States. She formerly served as Liechtenstein's ambassador to the United Nations for 12 years. The ambassador has been posted in Washington for 14 years and is second in seniority in the diplomatic corps. Ambassador, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Liechtenstein, people probably confuse it with other countries, other small countries. Tell us three things we should know about Liechtenstein.
Be happy to. Liechtenstein is a beautiful alpine country, forward-looking, progressive, flourishing industry. Number two, Liechtenstein is the country that has one of the lowest crime rates in the world per capita. And also, Liechtenstein is probably the only country where the monarch, the prince, invites the whole country once a year to the castle grounds for a party. This happens on August 15, our national day.
Whoa! Now you put a couple of things into the conversation. You said per capita. How many people live in Liechtenstein?
First, Dennis, the per capita comparisons are the only ones with which I can impress. Our population currently is around 37,000, like a small American town.
Wow, 37,000. And what do the folks do there for a living?
Many work in our manufacturing industries. That's the part of our economy that contributes most to our GDP. And then general services. And of course, some people work in the financial industry. So it is a service-oriented country to a certain extent, but manufacturing is the largest portion of our economy.
Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, because I want to find out about imports, exports, that kind of a thing. But geographically, what are the bordering countries?
Two, Switzerland and Austria. We are right in between, sandwiched in between. The border to Germany is about 30 miles away.
So when they say, in doing some research, that it's a double landlocked country, what does double mean, double landlocked?
Doubly landlocked means that we have to cross two countries to get to the sea. And there are only two countries in the world that are considered doubly landlocked.
Only two?
Only two.
Wow, and you are, what's the other one? Do we know?
Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan?
Yes.
Double landlocked. I like that. I like that phrase.
Yeah.
So you said alpine country. So what's the topography? Is it mountainous? Because Switzerland and Austria, right?
Yes. So we are a very mountainous country. We are 2/3 of the country are mountains. Yes.
But it must be very beautiful.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yes, I see visitors go hiking, biking, skiing.
Is it a skiing country? Skiing?
It is.
Yeah.
We have one ski resort.
And are you a skier?
Yes.
Oh, see, okay. And hiking, I guess it goes with the pot. And Germanic, I would gather, huh?
Our national language is German, but we speak a dialect. The dialect is something that some people compare to what people speak in the eastern part of Switzerland and in the western part of Austria. It is a dialect that, for people who speak only the High German, it's not understandable.
I thought this was kind of interesting. In Liechtenstein, 770 cars per 1,000 people, and some of those other surrounding countries, there were like about 550 per 1,000 people. Why is that so?
I guess it comes with a fairly prosperous society.
Okay.
That families have at least two, sometimes more cars.
So very high. It's a high standard of living, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. One of the highest in the world, I gather.
Certainly one of the highest in Europe and probably on a global scale as well.
Is it true that more people drive into Liechtenstein to work every day and leave at the end of the day than actually live there? Is that true?
Well, it's partly true. We have more jobs in Liechtenstein than we have inhabitants. It's half of our workforce that leaves Liechtenstein daily and comes back in the morning to work. And these people who commute to Liechtenstein come from the neighboring countries, Switzerland, Austria, and even from the southern part of Germany.
So it's a little like Washington, D.C.,
Yes.
with people coming in from
Absolutely.
Maryland, people coming in
Yes.
from Virginia, and then at the end of the day, they're all stuck on I-66. Oh, what pain.
We don't have those problems yet.
You don't have those problems?
Not yet.
Not yet. Let us take a little break. We should say to the folks at home that we're very pleased, very honored to have with us number 2 in seniority in the diplomatic corps in Washington, D.C. I want to talk a little bit about the diplomatic corps and being a female ambassador here. Ambassador Claudia Fritsche from the Embassy of the Principality of Liechtenstein, and I want to hear more about that on the other side. Sit tight. This is America and the World. This is America and the World is brought to you by the National Education Association, the U.S.-China Education Trust, and F.Y. Chang Foundation, guided by Ambassador Julia Chang Block, President. The League of Arab States, representing 350 million people in 22 member countries. Tourism Malaysia. The Petrolin Group, expertise with integrity in the fields of oil and gas, exploration and production, energy, and infrastructure. The Rotendaro Family Trust. The Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings. And Ventana Productions, television facilities, editing, and distribution services. Ambassador, when we say that Liechtenstein is a principality, and you referenced the prince earlier in the conversation, what does that mean to us here?
Well, a principality is a sovereign country whose monarch is a prince. If you have a king,
that's simple.
Yeah, if you have a kingdom, the monarch is the king or the queen. If you have a grand duchy, the monarch is the grand duke or the grand duchess. And in the case of the principality, the head of state is the prince.
Something sticks in the back of my mind. 1806, when I guess the country became the country. Am I correct on that?
The country was formed earlier, but in 1806 we attained sovereignty through Napoleon. But the country actually came into existence in 1719. So 3 years from now we will celebrate 300 years.
Whoa, that's going to be a big deal, isn't it?
It will be.
So how is the government set up, and where does the ambassador play into that?
The government of Liechtenstein is, well, let me start by saying that we are a constitutional hereditary monarchy on a parliamentary and democratic basis. It means that the power is vested in the prince and the people. The people being represented by parliament. Parliament consists of 25 members. They are elected every 4 years. And the cabinet, our government, consists of the prime minister plus 4 additional ministers. They are proposed to the prince by the parliament, and the prince appoints them.
How does it work you've spent a long time in New York as ambassador from Liechtenstein to the United Nations, and then a long time here in Washington. Tell us a little bit about that route and some of the interesting things that have happened along the way. How do you get to be the ambassador? I guess that's the question. Huh?
Well, that happens in the second half of the career. I might start by telling you that I've had a somewhat unusual career. When I became what was then called secretary, but today's term would be the executive assistant or the personal assistant to the prime minister, I was 18 years old. It means, if it's a simple calculation, I never had the opportunity to get a higher education.
Whoa.
I have no academic credentials. I don't even have a college degree.
Whoa.
So what happened after those 4 years with the prime minister, where also foreign affairs were dealt with, I then moved to travel 4 years abroad because my party, after those 4 years, had lost the elections and there was a new prime minister. And 4 years later, my party, in those days we were all born into a party in Liechtenstein. This is changing now. So after the 4 years of me traveling abroad, spending time in various countries, having a wonderful experience, my party won the elections again, and I was recruited back, and that's when I joined the Foreign Service. I've had great mentors. I've had people who believed in me, but my diplomatic career is learning by doing. And when people say here in the US that someone lives the American dream, well, I lived the Liechtenstein dream.
It was, am I correct, it was, you were 12 years at the United Nations and 14 years here.
I'm in my 14th year here.
And you're ending your service to the country and will retire in short order. How did it come to pass that you were appointed to the United Nations?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I have stopped using the word retirement. I'm now saying that I'm leaving government service.
Oh, that's
because that signals to myself and to others that I'm still interested in doing things.
And should, yes.
But with regard to the to being the first Liechtenstein ambassador to the United Nations, we were planning, meticulously our admission to the UN. So there were 2 years preparatory work in which I was deeply involved. And this included making trips to New York to talk to the various UN ambassadors, whether there would be any obstacle to Liechtenstein being admitted as a member country. And probably because of the involvement in all the preparatory work, I was then in the end charged with assuming the post as the first ambassador there.
And who was Secretary General at that time?
It was Pérez de Cuellar.
And from which?
Peru.
From Peru.
Yes.
Peru.
Yes,
And then it was?
After that, it was Secretary General Boutros Ghali.
Oh, Boutros Ghali.
Yeah.
And then?
And then Kofi Annan.
Wow.
Yes.
What a run of historic figures.
Yes, indeed.
Can you recall back of any great conflicts at that time, or any activities or events that you were closely involved with?
Well, I think it started with Liechtenstein being admitted precisely during the year when the Iron Curtain had fallen, when the Soviet Union, became a number of new member states.
In the early 90s,
In the early 90s, it was 1990.
Yeah.
So it was actually a time when there was great excitement and great hope, something that some people then called a new world order. Needless to say, things have not in every respect quite developed the way the vision was then, but those were extremely exciting times.
Was it a natural progression to come to Washington? How did that work out?
When the government decided to open an embassy here, needless to say, I became interested, because by that time I had already been at the UN for over 11 years, and I was really, as much as I enjoyed every minute at the UN, but I was ready for a new challenge, and I got it.
So 14 years here. When I said a little earlier, number 2 in seniority, how many countries have embassies in Washington? How many and how many women are ambassadors?
There are over 180 embassies in Washington. Some ambassadors represent their country at the UN, and they are also accredited to Washington, meaning that they don't come very often to Washington, but they officially cover both postings. Well, with regard to female ambassadors, I have to say, regrettably, our number is dwindling. We used to be, up until about 1.5 years ago, we used to be close to 30. I think the highest number was 29, and we are now down to 17. Yes.
Is it tough to be a woman ambassador, a female ambassador here in Washington?
No tougher than being a male ambassador.
Okay.
If you are a female ambassador, you know, you are still the representative of your country. You are the representative of your head of state. So everybody, regardless of your gender, will pay the appropriate respect to you. In terms of a small country, being a female ambassador is actually an advantage because there are so very few of us. We have high visibility.
Okay.
And for a country like Liechtenstein, this is an advantage.
I see. Because that was in my mind. Is it difficult to get the attention of the government of the United States? Because obviously, you know, Germany and France and Great Britain and, you know, countries are going to be in focus. Is it hard to get the attention of the government, or when you are trying to achieve something, is it a tough go to get the appointments that you want?
Well, to say it in very general terms, if your country is of no particular importance and relevance to the US, if your country doesn't have any problems with the US,
yeah.
Under those circumstances, it's very difficult to get appointments because there are many countries, the ones that you mentioned, plus quite a number more, that have a particular importance, relevance for the US, and those ambassadors, needless to say, they have access no matter what.
Yes.
The representative of a small country has to work a bit differently. You have to work through the different layers of Washington. You have to be present, you have to be visible, you have to be on people's radar screen, starting from Congress to the administration, to the think tanks, the media, the cultural institutions, the academic institutions, and none of these layers should be neglected.
Whoa.
So it's quite a challenge.
This is going to bring us full circle around to the economy of Liechtenstein, because really what I want to know is how would you characterize the relationship between Liechtenstein and the United States? I mean, you're the meeting point, so to speak.
I venture to say that after 14 years since the opening of the embassy, close to 14 years, I'm happy to say that Liechtenstein is considered a very trusted partner of the United States. We have worked very diligently on this. It covers trade issues, it covers judicial issues. We have concluded, for example, a mutual legal assistance treaty. We have concluded treaties with the Department of the Treasury with regard to taxes. So in many cases, our authorities don't have to go through their respective embassies to get things done, but by virtue of those treaties, they can deal with each other directly. That makes things a lot easier.
U.S. and Liechtenstein have some trade, right? Because like we're number 3 or 4 trading partner of Liechtenstein. What are the exports?
Well, the U.S. is actually our, after Germany, our biggest trading partner.
Oh, is that true?
And what we do export to the United States are, and I give you a few examples, are power tools and fastening systems for the construction industry.
Is that the Hilti company?
That is the Hilti company. One of the market leaders in what they produce. And then we produce and export to the US camshafts and steering components for the automobile industry. Dental products. We are one of the largest producers in the world of dentistry, including artificial teeth.
Whoa.
Yes, the biggest producers are the United States, France, Germany, and Liechtenstein.
Whoa.
And then we also produce a certain kind of connector for the audiovisual industry. Our company covers more than half of the US market demand for that connector, and those connectors actually also connect the microphones on Capitol Hill in Congress, and they may even be used in this studio.
Well, that's terrific. How about financial services? That's a big thing, isn't it?
It's a big thing, but I might also want to add the Liechtenstein companies that are present in the US They actually employ, they provide jobs for close to 4,000 people. That may be a small number, but it's more than 10% of our population. I always have to put it in that respect.
Yes.
Yes. So financial services, yes, it's also a part of our economy. It's the third largest. First is manufacturing industry, then it's general services, and then it's financial services.
If someone wanted to go to Liechtenstein, what's the route? What do you get on a plane here in Washington? Where do you fly to?
Not to Liechtenstein.
Not to Liechtenstein. Where do you go?
No, we don't have an airport. We have a helicopter landing pad, but the closest airport, international airport, is Zurich in Switzerland.
So you go to Zurich and then take a train or something like that?
You take a train, which is 1 hour, and if you want to drive, which is a very beautiful scenic drive along 2 beautiful Swiss lakes, that takes you about 1 hour and 15 minutes.
And how about tourism? Is that a big thing?
Tourism is a big thing to the extent that we provide the infrastructure. I have to say we don't have a single big hotel, a hotel where conventions could take place.
What's the biggest city? How many people?
Vaduz has 5,500 inhabitants. That's our capital.
Vaduz?
Vaduz, yeah. V-A-D-U-Z.
And that's the capital?
That's the capital.
And how many people again?
5,500.
5,500.
Yes. Yeah.
No Marriotts there. No
Marriotts, no hotel. There is not one
but
hotel.
That must
chain.
be kind of tasty. That must be kind of nice.
Visitors to Liechtenstein stay in what would be considered these days boutique hotels, bed and breakfasts. The standard of our gastronomy is very high. We have excellent restaurants.
And museums, of
and
course.
Wonderful museums. People come in the summer to go hiking. And we have hikes for every level, from totally flat to very strenuous.
We're going to come to the end of our time in a couple of minutes, but I want to say that in my reading, one of the best education systems in the world, like in the top 10, and 100% literacy.
Rate, yes.
I've never read a profile of any country that's at 100% literacy.
It's a bit easier to achieve in a small country.
Oh, is that it?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah.
You will put all of us to shame here. I think all of us to shame, certainly me, that you have been to all 50 states in the United States of America?
I'm happy to say that I have. I completed that last year by visiting the 2 Dakotas.
Wow. So on a day, so what, as you not retire, but leave the service of the government and to leave, you're going to leave Washington,
yes.
right? Bittersweet, I'm sure. You must have tons of friends here. I know you have tons of friends here. That's tough, huh?
It is not easy, but there is a time and a place for everything in life.
Yeah.
The world has become a small place, and for me, a transatlantic trip is like flying to the West Coast. I'll be back.
Oh, well, I would think so. And I'll just mention a couple of things because you'll be too modest to say this, but upcoming in May, Salve Regina University in Rhode Island will be presenting you with an honorary degree. And I know that you've been very close to the Pell people, the family. People recognize Pell grants. And that's been a close association between Liechtenstein and you personally with the university. Huh?
But it has been predominantly a close relationship between the princely family and Senator Claiborne Pell and his family. They go back to the 1950s when they met in Europe, and the 2 families have stayed close friends ever since. So the prince is involved in the Pell Center, and I have been able to be that interlocutor between the Pell Center, the prince, the embassy for the last 10 plus years. Very happy to say.
As you're going to come back and forth, but as you leave America officially, and you've been to all these states, and you've been in Washington and New York, what do you make of America? I mean, what do you make of us? Huh?
I'll tell you what I love about America.
Please.
I love the openness. I love the curiosity. I love that people are challenging norms, that people are ready to change. I love the multicultural melting pot that the United States are. This creates innovation. If I take innovation and technology, America is the birthplace of social media. Social media has not only changed the life of each and every one of us, but diplomacy has changed. We, as a small country, we are now able, using social media, to bring our message, our information to millions of people, something which we were never able to do before. So there are many things I like in this country. I like the food, and any person who ever mentions hamburgers and hot dogs with regard to the United States has either never traveled here or has been blind while being here. So I'm a great fan of the US, and I will be a great ambassador of the US back home in my personal capacity.
Ambassador, thank you so much for our visit.
Thank you so much for your interest.
Thank you. For information about This is America and the World, and to watch all of our programs, visit our website, thisisamerica.net, and look for us on Facebook and Twitter. This is America and the World is brought to you by the National Education Association, the U.S.-China Education Trust, and F.Y. Chang Foundation, guided by Ambassador Julia Chang Block, President. The League of Arab States, representing 350 million people in 22 member countries. Tourism Malaysia. The Petrolin Group, expertise with integrity in the fields of oil and gas, exploration and production, energy, and infrastructure. The Rotendaro Family Trust. The Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings. And Ventana Productions, television facilities, editing, and distribution services.